All right. Hi, guys. Lindsay Dragon tonight. We have a different model. Every time we're doing this, I have a different camera setup because we're, you know. Hi, guys. Lindsay Dragon with Parenting Autism United. We're live again tonight with another guest appearance, and we have a handful of people in the studio tonight. Samantha, throw your hand in there so we know. Yep. Hi, guys. So we are connecting with Jody Gregory and Shelby Smith in the Gregory Center for Applied Behavior Analysis, so for ABA. And we're going to have a general conversation about some hot topics and figure out a little bit about what everyone does. And you're super encouraged to ask questions, and we will answer them for you, and or give you the resources to send them, to us directly for a more private conversation. So I'm just going to introduce the ladies in the back corner here, which you get is Samantha. Hi. We're interning from Misericordia, so she's helping tonight. Will be our question reader. So across from us, we have Jody Gregory and Shelby Smith. So tell us a little bit about you guys.
I'm Jody Gregory. I'm the owner of the Gregory Center for Applied Behavior Analysis. I am a BCBA and a licensed behavior specialist. I started doing ABA when I was a sophomore in college as an intern and kind of just went from there. I guess I'll get into more detail later.
Well, actually, if you are a PAU regular, you get our November newsletter. Jody was featured as our community rock star. And there's some great little tidbits in there about her past. So if you ever wanted to check that out, you can also visit it there. But yeah, if it's going to naturally come across, we've talked a little bit about the direction for tonight. So you know what we're doing.
Yep. So I did individual consulting for kids with behavioral diagnoses in school districts, and then started my own agency when licensure became a thing in Pennsylvania in 2013. Started to build a caseload, realized that there were way more kids that needed help than the amount that I could service by driving to each and every house. So we started center-based, and within a year, I met Shelby. And you want to say what your background is?
Okay. Hi, I'm Shelby Smith. I'm also a BCBA and an LBS. I'm currently the regional director for the Gregory Center. I started as a behavioral health technician in the original location of the center base, started back in 2016, and then shortly after switched my master's program into an ABA program. So I was in school for 2 years working as a behavioral health technician, then got licensed, then got my board certification, and have been with the Gregory Center ever since.
So very cool. Did one-on-one BCBA work and then became an assistant director in Hamlin, then the director in Hamlin, and then we created a position of the regional director when we opened multiple sites. Because I like to have a layered approach to have tons of support. So each clinic has a director, which is the regulations,
So we're going into that. So you have 3 locations.
Well, we have 4.
4. Oh, yeah. See, this is why this is so important. So the original location was in.
Well, it was in Pittston.
But by the PA inclusive site.
Yes.
And now there's still one in Pittston, but it's different. So tell us about those.
Yeah, we were in the old Cooper's Co-op building in Pittston, and so we started off in a daycare, and then we exploded out of that. We moved to another location that was very small. We exploded out of that. So we got this big site in the Cooper's Co-op building, which now houses PA inclusive and bakery. Bake inclusive, yeah, check that out. But so in that building, it is a gigantic building, and they started to renovate, and our clients did not appreciate that at all. There were people, there were drills, there were power tools, and we had some kids that were very unhappy in that environment. Yeah.
With the size of that building, the construction did go on for years, and it's still going on. So I think you did make the right move.
We hurried up and got out, and we bought an old church, like a Kingdom Hall, a Jehovah's Witness church. We bought that, renovated that into a center-based program that kind of was modeled after Dr. Carbone's clinic in New York.
And that was where?
That was in that in Duryea. So our original Pittston location became Duryea.
Right.
So all those kids moved to Duryea. Our staff kind of changed with it, but we grew in Duryea. When Duryea was doing very well, and we had a lot of clients in there, we had some staff come on board that were from up in Wayne County.
Mhm.
Around the same time, licensing got approved for, or CCBH medical assistants accepted us and let us become a provider. So
Which
now,
blew open the gates.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So at that time, we had some people from Wayne County. We had some clients driving up from Wayne County to Duryea every day.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, and we didn't want that to happen, so we put a clinic where they were.
Right.
So we went to Hamlin. So location number 2 is in Hamlin,
Mhm.
and that's all our Pike, Wayne, and Lackawanna kids.
Right.
And then Duryea was still starting to bust at the seams. Summer was coming. The kids were going to be coming, and we did not feel like we had enough space for them. So we got another location very close, which is now in Pittston by Walmart.
Right.
So now we have Duryea, Hamlin, Walmart, Pittston, Walmart Center. So we have those
Big locations.
bargain store. So we have all those locations, and then our Hamlin Center, we started to have a lot of parents from Lackawanna County coming
Right.
in, driving, traveling. We had staff that were living up in Wayne County, going to school up at Western Wayne with the kids, and all those locations. And then the kids were in Carbondale and Jessup. So, and then we started to be in the Valley View School District and all the Mid Valley and all those districts. So we put a clinic in Carbondale.
That's amazing. I had no idea. And last year, from January till like the end of April, I visited a ton of Head Start classrooms. And even now, we get families coming, our direction. But we did an event on Monday in Music, and we had some Lackawanna County families there. And they still said there's nothing in Lackawanna County, that just Luzerne County has so much. But I said, I don't think that that's always the case, because not a lot of these people that live in Luzerne County don't know that we exist.
Right.
So even like if people are coming to me for resources, and I don't know that you now have a clinic in Carbondale, now I'm just going to say, like I always say, call, you never know, but you have to call to find out. And things change daily for everyone. But that's how fast things can change. And I
Right.
mean, there's no amount of places that we could open up that would serve everyone.
Exactly.
But places are here one day and gone the next. So that being said, tell us center-based ABA therapy, all the great things that you guys focus on. And just a tidbit, my son is 10 years old and has a diagnosis of severe autism. And when we started out, you can only do so much with what you're told. And it's kind of like going to WebMD. Like, you can tell me how to operate on somebody's brain. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it or to be successful in it.
Right.
So, you have to be given the tools to implement the, practices that you're learning about. So with early intervention, we started with service providers, and it was helpful, as in I had somebody sitting next to me or somebody following, him around. And, I asked, what is your job? What is your role? And I can say that they were doing it. They were doing what they were supposed to do. And I'm like, well, it's not working.
Right.
He needs something more. And it was at that time that we made a switch as far as service providers. And I didn't know why. I just knew that this isn't working, so we have to try something else. And what I saw, which I didn't know at the time, but was ABA therapy. And I was like, oh, it's like the golden holy grail, like the shine came out. And I was like, that's it.
Right.
That's what he needs. Show me how to do that. And let's get this thing rolling. So, and then ABA was entered. And of course, I met you right after that, because I got the diagnosis and we tried to find people, and you're one of the first people we came across. So tell us a little bit about ABA therapy, why it's in your title, Gregory Center for ABA.
The reason it's in the title is because at the time it was BHRS services, which were your traditional TSS, mobile therapy, or BSC roles. And there's a huge range that encompasses. You can have a TSS worker who is with a kid who doesn't have problem behaviors, but maybe is just behind the class and has a diagnosis of some behavioral diagnoses that they require extra help in schools. The schools might have told parents back in the day, like he's not doing well or she's not doing well, you need extra help. And if you want to go way back, basically in the 90s when I first started this, I was an intern at Wilkes, and there was nothing in the area.
Right, I remember.
There were 3 little boys in
And
the
that's
area.
when, that's
Yeah.
when state kind of
Yes.
began,
Yeah.
George and Claire Shady, and that was the first family you worked for, right?
Well, I was an intern. They paid me in food. I went after class, and Claire would cook for me, and I would go work with her son for a while, and then I'd come down and eat. There was no payment of any sort. It was my internship. I
Right.
brought him to school as my internship project. I brought him to Wilkes.
Oh my goodness.
And we did ITT at the table. We did discrete trial instruction, which is what we do, but it's the old way where you're using a no prompt. You set out your cards and you're sitting at the table the entire session. And I used to do the sessions in his bedroom at his house. And then, he just hung out in his bedroom all day. He did 3 hours, then we go down and have lunch. And then another intern would come and do 3 hours. But we got all our guidance because Claire Shady wanted more for her son and
Right.
didn't know what to do. She had early intervention. She had a doctor tell her, like, he's not going to last at home, so you might as well not get attached. And he was 3.
Oh my God.
Yes, she was told that by a professional.
Chills.
So she was determined and she contacted everyone on the telephone. There was no cell phone. She rang up
Yeah.
Rutgers University and she called all the universities. Wilkes had nothing, King's had nothing, no one around here. So she branched out further and further and she got Rutgers and they said, yeah, we have Dr. Mary Jane Weiss and this guy Stein Lund, and they are doing behavior modification therapy following Dr. Lovas's program,
Right.
trained by Jack Michael, who was a protege of Dr. Lovas. They're trained by him and you can come out here.
Yeah.
So they called up some other families because it was very expensive. They found the other families. The kids are all in their 30s now.
Right.
They called them, said, let's all throw in and let's go out there and see what they have to offer. And then after that point, they contacted local universities, got interns from the psych programs, had us all come to the home, and we would have our big Newswatch 16 video cameras on a tripod in the bedroom. And there I was, 19, doing my discrete trial, videoing, sending it out, putting it in the mail, dropping it in the mailbox, waiting like 3 days for Rutgers to call us and say, okay, let's go over the video. And then he would tell me everything I did right, everything I did wrong, how to change it. I'd send it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So from that point, when it got to the point where they wanted services paid for, because now it's only the people who could afford to have it had it.
Right.
And the schools were willing to give families insurance, but there was no one to guide those.
Right.
So Dr. Carl Charnetsky, he was at Wilkes. He may still be at Wilkes, I'm not sure, but he helped put together the whole project of, working with Mr. Shady to get the state to pay. So at the time, I don't think there were TSS workers yet.
Right.
But there might have been something that you could go, and it was Children's Service Center. You would go through Children's Service Center and they would send someone to help you with your child. But what they did, there weren't really people trained on what to do because
Right.
there was no funding and there was no knowledge of it.
It was like an assistant to help you
Yes.
keep
Yes.
things safe.
And it would be like a master's level counselor.
Right.
There were like Dr. Charnesky, there were master's level counselors who would come in, but not specifically for ABA. They knew a lot of the things, but the intensity of ABA and all the principles and procedures, to take the time to train all the interns, who the turnover rate was every semester.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
just crazy. So they got children, they wrote a grant, they did like all this
It was a research consultant. Right.
right. So we went to this meeting. I was a kid. I was in college. I went to this big meeting in a boardroom at Children's Service Center with all these local doctors and all these people. And my job was to tell them what I knew and how I knew it from Rutgers. So I was like, here's what I do. And I don't really know why. I don't have the methodology. I don't have the theory, but I know this is what we do. And this is how it works. And this is how I generalize it to other things. So after we had that going for a few years and it was starting to get payments, now you could have that service and it was going really well. Other agencies picked up on it and started doing it. And at that point, that's when the Shadys again contacted the Department of Ed and we're like, guess what? My kid's in school now. He's 7 and he sits in a general ed classroom and he colors. And the teacher says he's cute. And when I ask him how he's doing, it's like he was a good boy today. And it was just very frustrating. So, we tried learning support, we tried life skills with this kid, and there was just nothing. So then that was when the Pennsylvania Autism Initiative was born.
Right.
And that spread like crazy. And I know that's Jen and Danielle from Beyond Behavior. They were in one of those classrooms. They were in one of those classrooms when we were consulting in there. And I think that's what gave them the bug. So it's just a matter of getting it out there and people latching on.
You guys seem to have the same passion, and you can see it. I can feel it radiating off, and it's the same thing when I come across Dolphus. When I come across, Eileen, who, there were no services. Her son is almost 30, but she had to drive down to Hershey, to get anything, and that was minimal then. And he's only 30.
Right.
Like
it's
that,
like
not
you know
even.
a secret. You know a secret. You're like, guess what? I found this gem. That's what it feels
when
like.
you can come across other people with that passion, that's when I get excited, and I got goosebumps still because I cannot imagine as a parent. I remember everything like it was yesterday with his journey. I don't know if I would if he didn't have autism. I mean, I'd like to think I would, but I remember it was September 28th. I said, "Help me," and that was early intervention. Then October 14th, we helped. We got, started with EI. And then January 22nd was the day he got diagnosed. Like, I will never forget those dates. But it was easy for me compared to what other families went through. 10 years.
Easier.
Yeah. It wasn't easy. It was definitely easier. And that's why whenever they used to do the courthouse vigil, I would just be a ball bag because I'm like, here are all of these people who have sacrificed so much and fought so hard, and because of what they did, as the reason why I'm able to even stand here today. Like I just couldn't even thank them enough. And then with that, it's like every time you get to a certain spot, then you move forward. Real quick, I just want to say hi, Samantha, and thank you for participating. So keep in mind, anyone else who's watching, would you mind hitting that X for me, please? We got an X, and we want to get it off so we can see. But yeah, anyone who is watching at the moment, always feel free to ask questions. We will answer them in real time, and also throw out anything that you think others should know about your journey, because it really is.
It's all about
it's crazy.
The buy-in, and the buy-in doesn't come from anyone telling you about it. It comes from living it and seeing it. Shelby, do you want to? When Shelby came on, it was just explain where you came from.
Okay, so I started. I think I had my interview the day after my college graduation, and started the following week as a behavior technician. That was in 2016, in June of 2016. So I just finished college. I had a psychology degree. I had planned on being a counselor. I had already been accepted into a master's program for mental health counseling. I was slotted to start in the fall. And I just took this job to have something in a somewhat related field, kind of to boost my resume.
Yeah, say it. Beef up that resume.
Because,
and she was very honest with that. Yeah. She said, I'm not sure what I think about working with kids. I never envisioned that for myself.
Yeah, I did. It was not the plan at all. But at the time, I was serving and bartending, and that really wasn't going to be anything to help me in a counseling career. So this was at least somewhat related.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll take the job, and I'll do the one-on-one thing until I get my master's degree and move on. And then after my first semester of the mental health counseling, I dropped the counseling master's, applied to an ABA master's program, swapped my entire career, and went that route instead.
What was it? What happened?
I don't know. I just liked it. I loved it. Like, I enjoyed coming to work. I was happy with the work. So, I understood it, and it made sense, and you could see like the progress, and you can see the importance behind it. And
so that's where we put out a video today. Did you guys see it?
I did not. Was it on Facebook?
Yeah,
it was not.
That's all right. We put it out today, but it's a tidbit of what we need to be doing for our behavioral health techs, our BCBAs, our teachers, our teachers' aides. literally the important, your importance. You're shaping my child. You're helping me be a better parent. You're helping me not lose myself into, a mental health, you know, doldrums or whatever. Um, like without the help of these individuals, all these families would be lost and all these children would be
So I think about it like
lost. Yeah.
if you think about what a BCBA has to do, so you have like a mental health counselor and they have to know how to do all of the things, right? They have to know how to deal with all these and they could only specialize in so many things. And that's one way. But for a behavior analyst, if you look at what our job requirement is, it seems very cut and dry. Like you just have to learn how to write treatment plans. You have to learn the principles. You have to learn how to collect data and prove that you're doing your job. But that is a drop in the bucket.
Right.
The things we have to teach the people, like we have girls coming up, and I say girls because it is, we talked about it last time, heavily woman dominated field.
Right.
I think that it's like Gary said, it's, men are, no one ever said, like, when you grow up, you're going to play with little children and do work with little, people don't say that to guys as much as, oh, you're going to be a great mom, you're going to work with kids.
It's just
be
a
a
natural
teacher.
thing
Yes.
for people to say.
Yes.
For females, yeah.
So ours is mainly women working at my center. We have some men, but mainly women. But they come in, they start doing it, then they go for their masters. And when for the IBHS regulations, you have to have 12 credits in an ABA program
Right.
in order to move up to the next like pay grade per se through the state. And then after that, you get your master's and then you become an LBS. And the things we have to say to our employees are things you would never think of. Like I have a director who doesn't have children, and I have to say to her, like, hey, when you talk to the parents, don't, you can't laugh at their jokes about this if they talk about the kid doing something silly. Like, you can't laugh because when they go home and tell grandma, like, so and so fell, and they say, what did his therapist say? And then she says, oh, she laughed, then they're going to say, oh my God, she laughed at him. What?
Right.
Like, we have to be you have to be loving, you have to be caring, you have to provide all the reinforcement the kid wants. Sometimes kids want a treat, sometimes kids want to play, or they want to, earn videos and things like that. But other times they want to be spun around and roughhoused and thrown on the crash pad. And you have to be able to do all those things. But then you also have to know that you can't act like you love the kid more than the parent when the parent picks them up. And you can't be like, oh, we love them so much. Like, no, that's not your child. That is their child. You're helping them.
Boundaries.
Yes, setting those boundaries and just teaching those things. And it's really a lot. Like some of the things we have to go over just in general that the job entails. Like you're working in schools. Like, no, you cannot participate in this with the school. You have to, no, you shouldn't go out for drinks Friday nights with the teachers because guess what? They're going to rat you out if you're doing wrong and you're going to become dependent and you're going to be.
We got an amen.
So yeah, there's lots of things, professional boundaries, but these are babies. These are someone's children, but they're not your children. But you love them, but you don't love them like their parent does. It's
what's
crazy.
so crazy is that as a parent, I'm like, I have more connection with you because than my own family members when it comes to my child. But it's also a very, sometimes early intervention would walk in the door and I'd just start crying. And they're like, well, what do you need us to help you with today? And I was like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, well, let's just, figure this out. But then it really comes to I think it's it's like a hero person because something happened and we fought for your child today.
Yes.
And we made sure, but that to me, it's like, it's an attraction, not like a romantic attraction. But the other part of that is a parent ethically cannot thank you with anything other than the words thank you.
Correct.
And for me, I was like, I'm gonna so because
the
I
guideline
know
is actually if you are, it can't be anything of monetary value, but the BACB says that if it would be damaging to the therapeutic relationship and insulting to the parent if they just want to give you like a candy cane at Christmas, like you accept a little something little non-monetary value, a gesture, Christmas cookies, something.
So that's what we do here with our Santa's workshop every year is we have little homemade crafts that literally cost nothing to make. and it was either made by the child who is the client or student. It was made in conjunction,
Right.
whether they pick the color or they pick the shape that you're cutting out for them if they didn't have the fine motor skills or the attention,
Right.
span to do that. And then the third thing is, say they're a little bit more severely affected, or say they're an eloper or have pica, where if they're running around the space, like you can't stay anywhere long, really.
Right.
So we already have a lot of those things pre-made by other participants who come into the office, including our interns. So, so one of those, that's the thing. It's like we started doing that simply because it has meaning. And it's $1 if somebody wanted to buy it. And if they didn't want to buy it, take it.
It's a gesture.
It's about the thought process and the gesture. And it's something small, but it's something that you would keep forever.
Yeah.
And you will have a very happy, hopefully, and fond memory of that client at that time. So, ABA therapy, though, it does come with equal parts. I don't want to say equal, of positive and negative.
Well,
I would say 1/4 to 3/4, because most people who are talking about ABA are educated in it to some extent. Some. And I can say a lot of the negativity that we hear about ABA comes from people who are not professionally trained in ABA therapy. Is that generally a correct statement?
Depends on where it's coming from.
Okay.
I think it depends on where it's coming from. Are you talking like in
Social
regular
media.
everyday life or social media? I think
Social
is a different
media,
story.
and obviously it's just word of mouth, because that's
Like
where
regular everyday life, word of mouth. People don't know what. it
right.
even
That's
is.
what's yeah.
If you're not affected in any way that you would need it, like people still don't know what my job is.
Yeah, just like I
Like,
wouldn't
like,
know.
oh, but she works with kids.
Yeah.
She's got letters.
Yeah.
They stand for something. I'm not sure, so there's not as much conversation, I think, in like the general public on the day to day.
So then we
find a lot on
transfer.
social media.
Well, yeah, social media. Then let's have that route.
So, but I think it's portrayed as, oh, this person is neurodivergent, so we want to make them typical. And that is not my mentality on it at all. My mentality comes from seeing some of the most severe cases, and I pride myself on we take a lot of severe cases of problem behavior. We're called into schools a lot. There might be services provided by, the school or other places, and they might call us to come in because there's just so much aggression or problem behavior or so much difficulty that we have seen. Okay, so if you as a parent, just say you haven't tried
you can always
ABA.
use Jackson as a thing.
Well, I'm not, but in general, just say you are a parent, you have a child with autism,
right.
and you have 2 children, and you parented them both very similarly, and it's not working with your child with autism, but it is working with your other child. It makes parents want to know why.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it work? And we could explain as part of the diagnosis, does not imitate well, does not care about, doesn't show empathy toward others, doesn't worry about other people's perspective, things like that. But the bottom line is, if you take any issue that you might have, whether we call it ABA or not, if you take any issue, there's a way for us to say, like, here's how we can help you. Your life is not going well. You're not smiling and happy. You're not participating. Your body isn't healthy because you're very sedentary, and, all these different things. We can set goals to improve those, not trying to take away your differences,
right.
but trying to help you to assimilate to the community more and to feel valued and loved and appreciated, and to be able to have relationships. Because there are kids who look like they wouldn't have a relationship with anyone based on their appearance and their reciprocity.
Yeah.
But you get a good behavior analyst to go in, and that kid's going to throw up double hearts and give them a high five, and their parents are blown away. And they're smiling and they want to be by you. And you're like, because I'm paired, and pairing is ABA. And positive reinforcement is ABA. It's not giving treats and sticker charts. It's about making a meaningful connection with the child, finding out what is important. If you both had children on the spectrum and they presented identical visually, but you want your child to not have a lot of demands, because he's not going to work in a workshop when he's older. He's going to have to spend time with family. He's going to have to occupy himself. He's going to have to go on vacations with your family and go to events for your siblings. your goals are going to be nothing like her goals. Her goals might be like, no, I want him to go to a day program. I want him to follow instructions, follow routine, independently use the bathroom, independently do all these things. I'm not going to say, no, that doesn't, no, I'm going to help your child to meet your family's goals for them.
And I think a lot of families don't understand when they can say, I am miserable. We as a family unit are miserable. Keeping this program in place is killing us. What can, like, they don't know that there is something that they could just easily send an email,
Right.
have a conversation, say, you know what, we really got to change this. Because I think that clearly like you said, we will change it up. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of families will just stop.
We've
Why do we do that?
we've only had one family in 10 years stop.
Well, they might stop believing in hope, stop believing in that they might go into like a spiral personally and mentally.
Correct.
That's
We are, as behavior analysts, we're in tune to that. Mom had a rough day. Mom didn't look good when she showed up for pickup. What are we going to do? I'm going to call her tonight and see if she wants a home session tomorrow.
awesome.
Like, we're on
That's
it
really
because
cool.
we want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're not just working with the child. We're working, but there's family goals. Every kid has a parent goal.
Yeah.
And the parent goal could be that you're running a program to potty train, or your parent goal could be you could enjoy your dinner for 15 minutes without getting slapped.
Right.
So
Well,
it could
yeah,
be anything.
seriously.
Yeah.
That happens. That's not
You're
real.
like, I know.
That's serious.
And I know that because we do these things and we see it.
So and that's kind of the thing. Now, I myself, I'm a both, I'm an extrovert. I can say that. So, I'm an outgoing person. I'm a social person. And sometimes it's difficult for me to understand why somebody else isn't. And once I ask, I say, are you a hugger or whatever? Or it's like, are you comfortable talking with another parent? Because if you're not, are you comfortable instead of talking? Are you comfortable if I connect you with the other parent on Facebook? And that's how a lot of things happen. But even then, how many times do we all go where we're like, we need to respond to them, and then it just never happens? So then it's like, okay, if that didn't work out, that doesn't mean that it's done, And for me, I'm a persistent mofo. I will cat typing, hey, I need something now. But that I have come to realize that that's me. And that's where I struggle even with the events at PAU, is that I'm like, I would have been here, I am here now, but I would have been here in a heartbeat. And as you know, when we did all of our meetings back in the day, Jody was often a guest speaker for these safe support meetings that were always held at the Graham Academy. And she would cover any topic, but that's how we got to become close, was because it was usually me, my husband, and one or two other or another family. And so we almost got we got this great one-on-one, direct help. And it was just a shame that there weren't more parents taking that, because the information was invaluable. It was so important and it really helped us. But in the grand scheme of things, and now post-COVID, we're in a virtual world.
And I feel bad because a lot of the parents who you see struggling that will say they're fine, don't come over, they're the ones that need the most help, but I feel like you feel judged by people that are close. So people don't understand that just because you have a child with autism and that they're not able to follow instructions and do what you need them to do, it looks like you're bad parenting.
Right.
But it's not. It's that they're not being typical.
Well, and what's so funny about that is when you're given a diagnosis, you're also given the information to parent of PA. So you're talking with another parent, and so that's great. But then it's like you're still at home, and early intervention is coming into your home. And one of the biggest things that they always said to me is that we're here to help you in your regular lifestyle, but you clean like a mad person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, every now and then it just started. It wasn't like it got worse, but it was always just like, listen, this is the way it is. Don't get upset if, your dog peed on the floor, yes, clean it.
Right, but
But if you cleaned it and it's still dried and it looked like a spot, it's still, I'm saying this because it happened to me.
yes.
And then one time, my niece was with me, and her name is Shelby too. But one time, special instruction came in from EI, and I swear to God, I had just cleaned like crazy awesome. And it was apparently obvious. She was like, "Oh, you did your floors." And I was like, "I sure did." And then I looked at her and I was like it did happen. But for me, I don't care. Like that's the thing. You just have to be able to get over it. The one thing I always tell families, no matter who's coming to your house, whether it's EI or a service provider or whatever it is, that is their office space for the day. Be dressed. Behavior techs don't come early.
No,
I've had
exactly.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
come early. Be on right on time, leave on time.
Yeah.
But while they're there, that is their space. You do not have to ask to go to the bathroom. You can just let me know if you're not just going to get up and walk outside to like do something. So I don't think you're just leaving. But it's like, oh, you don't have to ask though, as far as I'm concerned, because you wouldn't have to ask in a normal work setting, right?
And we found
Like,
we found huge success because that was my life. Like that's what I had, that's what I always had to do because there were no clinics when I first started. So all my services were home based. I'd go to every home. Some parents would have like the nanny cam watching us in the
Yeah.
room with the kid. It was like some people would just sit in the corner and watch, and it totally wrecked everything. Not because I was embarrassed, but because when you're present, you're an SD for we watch TV, we play,
Right.
we have snacks, we have lunch, we go bye-bye in the car. And why can't we do those things? Oh, this awful person is here, and they can
Right.
sit at the table. It changes the entire. It doesn't mean that when I go home, I expect you to have them in that table and at that chair. That's not natural. And
Right.
that's what we explained to the state when they came in to switch from BHRS to IBHS and to approved clinic-based. We showed them. We teach the kids here. It's a neutral environment, and it's all their favorite things. We had a flood at our Duryea clinic last winter, and we renovated the entire first, like the basement level. We renovated it to resemble the two of the older boys' kitchens.
Oh, wow.
We asked what they used, what they do at home, what their expectation is, and then we made it that kind of homey environment with full kitchen and like an art area, tables, because we teach in that environment first. We prove to the parents they could do this. We'll show you. Then we come over and we show you how to do it. But if I were to just say to you, no, make him brush his teeth for 3 minutes because he can do it, that doesn't mean he could do it for you. We have to generalize it and transfer the skill from me to you.
What do it's situational.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he does certain things in different places. He would drink from a cup without a lid and water at the center, but at home it was only a sippy cup with milk. He wouldn't drink milk from a cup. He wouldn't drink water from a cup. It was situational, and he would do it at different places, whether it was me or it didn't matter who the person was. And we had that conversation today when we got into the car with Mr. Larry at the end of the day. I was like, he feels he has to do it here, and then when he gets home, feels he has to do something different, and so that's been following him. But just to piggyback on something you already said, just oh, I lost it. It's okay, it happens.
To make a comment, Sam said that she always tells herself that people are human too.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. Forgiving yourself is hard to do. And then, when you're having an aggressive child, forgiving them is hard because you're physically hurt or they physically hurt somebody else, like their little brother, like that happened to us in our family situation too. And I really do think that having your team as a team, and it's not us against them. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. Oh, I have it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not going to remember it. I do remember now. Thank you. Sorry for whoever. I did try to model what ABA was because it was working, and I'm a go-getter. I succeed. I'm a doer. I get my shit done.
Mm-hmm.
And it destroyed my relationship with him. And it took me years to get half of it back.
Well, right. It's like homeschool parents. Like, how do they sit there and teach their kids all day and then turn into mommy later. I could never do it. I didn't do good during COVID. I need them to go to school. I need them to go to soccer practice to learn soccer. I'm not going to teach them. My husband
Yeah.
knows soccer. You just need people who specialize in certain areas to teach those skills.
For the parents who obviously you can follow the plan, but you have to be able to adapt it to you. And that will, anything that you can do to throw in a little bit of DIR therapy or floor time. It's just like when they're babies with tummy time. You have to spend time with your kids in a fun and loving manner. But I recognized it, and it was almost impossible to get it back.
But my thought on it, so if you're doing floor play, natural environment teaching, you're still using ABA if you're
Oh, I
teaching
was a
correctly.
tryant.
Because you're
I
showing,
was
you're modeling.
horrible.
What are you doing? You're teaching imitation, and then when they imitate appropriately, you're excited, you're happy. Like when we do
I mean,
natural environment teaching,
I
it
wanna
looks like
think-
floor play, but
I probably did. I was probably not that bad. However,
it feels exhausting.
it
when
did
you feel like
affect
you
my
have to be like
relationship
that.
with him.
Sure.
And so I probably wasn't as bad as I'm making myself out to be. But I do know that I was like, I could do this all the time, and we're gonna soar through this program, or whatever it is. And we're gonna get all these skills. And that's just not the way it goes. And it burned me out.
And it's not meant to be like
And
that.
it's not meant to, of course. So yeah, so I messed up, and that's when I have to take it, and say, all right, now what do we do? And that's when I said, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. And what a relief.
Yeah.
The weight off of my shoulders was unbelievable. But it also comes from having confidence in my team and in the
Right.
people who I've reached out to you many times. And, thank goodness with social media, we can all kind of keep up with each other to some extent. And you've reached out to me. And it's like, this is my community. This is my village. And years ago, I'd have to say, where the fuck is my village? Sorry, guys.
No,
But,
that's a thing.
where's the village? Because I'm not from the area, and I was the first one of my friends to have kids. And then also the first person I ever knew at the time that had I never, when they said autism, I didn't think of Rain Man. I didn't think of anything like that. I didn't think of anything at all because I didn't know. I just knew at the time something was wrong, and now I know something was different.
Right.
So it's crazy though, how you can go through that. And I can talk about my experience that way without crying now, but for many years I couldn't talk about anything without
Oh
crying.
yeah.
But it just comes with, I know, right? And I'm an ugly crier, so it was horrible.
And I'm like, if you cry, I cry.
Yeah.
So.
I'm like, let's go for a drink.
Says it takes a village.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
So the negative aspect of ABA, because I'm the queen of off topic, some users, parents on social media, and you'll see this if you ever were to Google it, some people have equated it to abuse. And I consider ABA to be like a tool, like any tool. If you want to use a hammer for building things, great. If you want to use a hammer to, bash somebody's skull in, that's really not good.
Right.
It's a different tool, and it depends on who's using it, how
Right.
it's used. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I definitely think you can go back through the history and the beginnings of ABA, but like ultimately it's evolved over time as everything does.
Right.
There's a lot of different strategies and interventions that are in place now that maybe were not used back in the 80s or 90s, and I think that's taking into account what's worked, what's not worked.
You have to
trial
go
and error
through
of
it to figure it out.
So I think at the end of the day, the main mission of what we're doing is using positive reinforcement to shape socially significant behaviors. And we say socially significant. Some people will say, well, what's, socially appropriate to you may not be socially appropriate. I'm not saying appropriate. I'm saying what's significant to the individual. So
It's individualized at
What
every
does
step.
this kid need? What does this young adult need? What do we need to work on? And we're using reinforcement to work on it. It's what is motivating, what is good to you, what do you like? Let's use that and let's teach some skills with it. And so I think it's maybe a lot different than some people may have experienced. Some adults who maybe have adults who speak out on what they went through when they're younger, I think it would look very different now. But I also do think you have to look at, your options and different providers and different just utilizing the skills differently or pushing interventions differently, or different providers and different agencies are going to have differences.
Well, and it's
You
like,
have to find your people who mesh with your goals.
And what's going to improve your world.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like a bartender,
Yeah.
right? Like you get a job as a bartender at another place, and they want to teach you how to make that drink because it's not the same as somewhere else. And
Yeah.
one person can change the trajectory of a child's educational or behavioral career. And I know that because I experienced it, but I think that's what these individuals who are speaking out at, they had somebody in their life who was hopefully implementing it the way it was supposed to be taught, because abuse is abuse itself. That's something completely separate. You can say this is what you're doing, but in reality, they were a horrible human being who were being, abusive. But if you look at ABA therapy, I mean, it all depends if you're using it the correct way, but it's the same way as using a curling iron. If you're not gonna curl your hair with it, you're gonna, I don't know, it's a bad analogy, but
I mean, I like the way that Angel put it. She said that a plumber uses a wrench differently than a mechanic would need to use it for. It's all about how you use the tool and adapt the tool to the needs.
well, and Samantha, you can use ABA for anyone, and I remember this from the very beginning. It works on kids, spouses, dogs. It can work on anyone, right?
Right, and it is working on everyone who has a job where they get paid, where they have
Right.
raises, incentive-based raises. You're using ABA.
I know that one.
Right,
Right.
yeah. College students,
Yeah.
how you
Got my
interact with
bonus
your
last year.
professor.
Yeah.
Correct.
And and I don't know how you would feel about this, but and I want your opinion. I've had a parent reach out who was very nervous about, I don't know if I want to try it. So one of the things I did learn in early intervention was that you don't know if something will work at all until you try it. You don't know if a gluten-free diet will help you until you try it. It doesn't matter what it is. You're not going to know until you try it. So unfortunately, you do have to process of elimination. We tried this, but did you try it?
Yeah.
You may have presented it, but did you really do it? And that's what you have to be honest with yourself as a parent. And obviously, the professionals, that's your job to do that. So hopefully, that always goes the right way. But I told the parent, my son was here during the summertime for scheduled days with his behavioral health techs. And I said, if you want to see ABA in action, we're here. It's an open facility. You can stop in if we're open.
Yeah.
And you can sit here and watch as my son works through his goals with ABA therapy. Nobody ever took me up on it. And I wasn't putting him on display. We were here anyway.
Right.
Anyone could have come in. But honestly, I feel like, why you test drive a car, you see if you like it. If you wanted to see what it was like, you can watch videos online. You can, again, if you're around, if you wanted to take a tour as a parent at a school, you're going to see how this classroom looks. You're not going to get to sit there the whole day, but maybe you could if you asked.
Right.
I mean, if that's what you need to do to make the decision on where your child is going to be spending more time than what they spend at home, I think it's depends on the school district.
Yeah, Samantha agrees with you too.
Husbands too.
Yeah.
Well, and that what we do at Parenting Autism United is only speak from experience. And if we don't know, we can say this is what we've been told by other parents. And you should always reach out to your professionals first and make these decisions for yourself. Go on as many tours as you can. And it's worth taking the day off.
Right.
I mean, you have to do it. It's
Right.
you take the day off to take your dog to the vet.
You take the day off when the school calls and says, pick up your child because it's not going well and we need them out of here for the day.
Don't ever do that. They have to suspend them to
Illegal.
do that. It's illegal. So,
But you know what I'm saying.
oh, absolutely. And
You're
that's
going to get more calls about it without help.
the one day he coughed was he was taking his medication, but that was the last dose.
Oh, no.
And I was like, going to school. But I could have, and it happens a lot, parents would have kept them home because they didn't want them to have a bad day or not. So we have a little accident on the roundabout here, maybe. It's always a little action here. So if you see some reflections in the glasses, it's not us.
We're
I
okay.
didn't do it.
We're okay. Exactly. Um, well, where do you see like ABA going? Do you see it? I mean, I think it's going to be here forever because it's the only scientifically proven model. Am I right?
Correct. And it's endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Medical Association, paid for by insurance.
Right. It's the
I
only
have-
thing insurance covers.
Right. So
Right.
let's just say this. Let's say music therapy. Okay.
Yeah.
So if insurance doesn't pay for music therapists could use data collection to prove that their methods are working and then they're doing ABA. But it's still music therapy.
Right.
It's music therapy with data. Proof,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you could look at a child one day and they're having a rough day, they're having problem behaviors, and you do a couple lessons of music therapy, and then the next time they're observed, or maybe they're always good during music therapy, so you assume that it's working. But is it generalized? Like, can you generalize it to home? Can you utilize it at all aspects of their lives? I don't know. I'm not a music therapist, but I'd be
Right.
willing to say that if music therapists were able to collect data to prove, like speech therapists,
Yeah.
occupational therapists, and behavior analysts, we have data to prove our point. And I think that's what's missing, that why insurance doesn't cover a lot of other therapies. Not that they don't work, but there isn't data to support it.
Right.
And if there were data to support it, it's ABA.
And that
So-
goes into our interns. Last semester, we had two very research-driven psych majors, and we're, have Samantha with us this semester. But it was unbelievable because they have access to all these great platforms, right?
Yes, we have access to over 48 databases.
Yeah, data or it didn't happen. That's correct.
That's
Pretty
right.
much.
She's one of ours.
All right.
Good job, Alexa.
Well, even with students who are in college today, when they go to look for information, it's not there.
Yeah,
What the hell?
yeah, I did some research for you,
Yeah.
and I only found like 3 articles
And they weren't even,
about what I was trying to look for.
but she did her due diligence. She's
Yeah.
great.
So-
Samantha.
And that was the great thing. Dr. Carbone, while he was doing all these things, he was publishing papers, he was doing data analysis, he was doing research studies. So is Dr. Sundberg, like they all have that aspect. But around here, it's, I'm running the company. Shelby's managing all the directors are managing their caseloads. Who's doing a research paper where there's just no time?
Well, and that's it. We looked at publishing
Mhm.
things. I don't know. That's why she's here. But we looked at it, and whatever the requirements are, we're open to facilitating. We're open to doing that. So whether we start compiling or whatever it is, and then hopefully when our individuals who are coming through here getting a glimpse of it, whether they're staying in the field or not, if we ever decided to do something like that to really help make a change and really make it happen, we have some people who are, versed in that.
And the Pennsylvania Autism Initiative, they have the National Autism Conference every year, and that's where you'll see the results of research studies. You'll see the doctors who are not working one-on-one with kids. And then there's like Francesca, who is working one-on-one with kids and research studying, but they're not here. They're not local to here. You have to really expand your horizons to find those studies. But if you go on the patent website and look up for the Autism Initiative at the National Autism Conference, can you start watching them now? Are they on replay?
For this past one,
past
they're
year,
not
they're
yet.
not yet.
They're
Alright,
not
but
posted. They will
previous
be,
years-
but every previous
'cause
year for the
COVID,
past
they haven't.
8 or 9 years are all
Virtual,
archived.
right?
documents.
No,
Oh, okay.
but it just takes a few months for them to get them on the website.
Okay.
But you can watch any of the other ones, and they have links to all their research papers in the.
Oh, see, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
See,
Should've
we
called
don't
me.
want to recreate the wheel.
Should have called me, Linz.
I know. We're throwing things out there as I'm running here, running there. I'm like, look this up. I'll be back. And I did it today. I was like, I'll be here, I'll be there, and then I'll be back. So with that, I know that there's trends in what families are and are not doing. What would you say the most important thing for a newly diagnosed family is? So we're not talking yet to service providers. We're not on wait lists yet. We just got the diagnosis. What would be your words of advice? And each of you can give something. A friend calls you. I have a friend, so it's not somebody you know. but they know that you work with kids somehow with autism.
With letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the advice that you would have for a newly diagnosed family? And then we're gonna ask a follow-up question right after that.
I know my answer.
I don't know. You said right away.
You said not on wait list or anything yet, so that
No, they
changes
just
a little bit, but
they just got
my-
diagnosed.
usual advice is to get on every wait list that you can. Usually what I would say is, and this has happened before, if people ask me,
Right.
you're gonna call around, there's gonna be a bunch of wait lists. You're gonna get frustrated because people are gonna be telling you it's gonna be sick. Get on them anyway.
Yeah.
Every single one. I will send you 20 different places to call. Get on every single one because something will open up somewhere, and you need to just slide right in at the first place you get. And then if
Yeah.
something else opens and this one's not working,
Yeah.
you have that choice to move around. But like as many people and services as you can get,
Including SAFE, PAU,
Yeah.
CAM,
like your community resources,
all of them. Yeah.
in your service agencies, if you're looking
It's a
for
lot.
ABA,
You don't have to go
any
through it alone.
early intervention, if you're
Yeah.
of that age range,
Right.
get an early intervention referral immediately.
Yeah.
You know, that's usually my first.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah.
For newly diagnosed families.
I say, so if it's someone, if it's local, and I
I'm
don't know
talking
them.
local.
Local, okay.
Local and you don't know them.
Local and I don't know them, I say contact one of the autism hubs to find out information on all the different agencies, get early intervention, birth to 3 or 3 to 5, whatever you could find, speech, OT, PT, anything your insurance will pay for. You can have speech through the early intervention as well as medical speech through your, health insurance through,
Guys
Like,
in our out
yes.
nurture development.
right,
or
there's
whatever.
multiple, you could double up on all those if you feel like what you're doing, because birth to 3, they're coming to your house
Right.
and they're giving you an hour a couple times a week, but use that to determine your child's skill level. Use those professionals to find out how soon do you need help, how off, because some people think that their kids might be a little bit delayed and they might be wrong.
Right.
They might just be
Exactly.
comparing to another child.
Early intervention does not mean autism.
Right. So I say, get your early intervention,
Yeah.
get the different resources in the area, contact support groups, contact Lindsay, Parenting Autism United, contact all the different agencies, see what's available, and then they, even the early preschools and
Yeah.
the Head Starts and things like that, they send them.
There can
Don't-
be enrichment programs that aren't client only based. They can be open to the public. It's first come, first serve.
Yep.
That type of thing.
Yep, and I say go on so for non-local, I do tell them go on the VACB website and find a BCBA in your area, contact them and find out, shoot them an email and say what agencies, what's available. I always say look for a BCBA run program, because if you don't do a program, you're going to end up wasting a year of your life. Because when I got my master's, I was already doing ABA and I moved to another town about an hour from here. I just got my master's. I was put on as a licensed behavior specialist to work in this autism program at an agency. And they followed a program that was written by like Dr. Bob. And it was a
Right.
guy that they knew who said, this is how we do it. And they gave me a clipboard and a bunch of toys and said, go out to the houses. And they didn't want my data. They didn't want anything. And I was like, this isn't normal. There's no BCBAs here. What is happening? How is this allowed?
Yeah.
And I got out and I became a mobile therapist, which I know nothing about, for a year until I could move back home to
Right.
find a company to work for that had a BCBA on staff.
Well, what was crazy about what you just said is that I get calls from New York. I get people stopping in while they're visiting family from out of state. I had a call this week from New Jersey, and I didn't know to tell them that.
Right.
And so that's huge because I would not have known. I didn't know. And the hubs are now the Autism Society of Northeast PA, I believe. So there are no more. You can't call Misericordias or Strasbourg. They don't
When does
exist.
that go away?
Misericordia was over a year ago in July.
Yeah, but nobody said anything.
That's the
Does that
thing.
go away?
There were well, that's
Okay.
about time.
See,
So-
I notice because I drive by there all the time.
Well, you'll notice the signs are now gone, but they were up for almost a full year after they
Yeah.
are closed. And one day they were there and the next day they weren't. And that's pretty much where that's why you do get a lot of people who don't have faith in autism programs. And it's not that it's just like you have to have programs that people come to. So if you get grants, They only cover what people are attending. So if you're not having people come, which people do not want to go to anything anymore, it seems, if you can't do it virtually or if you can't figure out another way to make it work, those grants are going to run out and they were not successful, so they're not going to re-up.
Right.
So if you don't attend things and you don't participate when you go, they're going to go away. And so we're as parents, this breaks my heart because I get the calls, I answer the questions, I feel in a very great way. Because these are the things that exist today. And how do I know it? One, I run half of them. And then the other aspect, I know the people who run the other ones.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you are. I know people in all of Luzerne County, and then on the line, you're the only one I know of in Lackawanna County, or even a hint of that direction. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's insane how programs come and go so quickly, but then they complain. They say there's nothing in our area, and it's like, well, I sent you this and this and this, and I know you didn't go because I was there.
Yeah.
It's hard to put people in that position, but at the same time, it's the number one issue in my mind. The number one issue is that families are not leaving their home, and I know it's comfortable, and I know the routine is perfect the way it is, but that routine will change every day and should change every day so that they're comfortable with change. Do I do that for my own son? Absolutely not. Do I want to? Yes. Do I put my best foot forward? Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where changing my life wasn't hard. And I can say that because once he got diagnosed, I was stuck in my house. I have a small house. I had to get out, But also, I have trouble finding things that brings my son joy. And it kills me when he doesn't like the things that I like. But guess what I'm getting to do in the process? I'm getting to learn new things by taking him to other things that he still hates. But that's the thing. It's like, how much do you push? We tried Challenger baseball. In the first game, in the first inning, he was nonverbal at the time, but he wrote with his little finger in the dirt. The King's kid was so cute. He's like, Mom, Dad, and ran out on the field, and he's like, look, and he had written in the dirt, done. First inning. And he underlined it. I was like, what on earth? And so, of course, being the athletic parents that we are, could set a bad example. We signed up, buddy. We're finishing the season.
Right.
Well, halfway through the season, he wouldn't wear any navy blue shirts because he thought we were going to baseball.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we're beating a dead horse here. So we changed. And then it took us a long time to realize that when we go to Knoebels, we may just play with gravel. And you can't force it.
Right.
You can give, it's a book by Temple Grandin. It was in the video that we put up today. Some people are great at it, the loving push. And you have to give them that loving push every day, because what happens otherwise is they're not going to be independent adults. And you, as a parent, will never be independent ever again.
And if nothing else, it gives you an opportunity to teach appropriate refusal, like saying, could I not go back? Or writing done.
Yeah.
And
Everything is an opportunity.
Yes.
Yes.
And you always try, even if something isn't good, you're still
Yeah.
trying other things. You don't say, we're home now, we don't go.
It's
You still
exhausting.
go. It's exhausting.
But that's why you hopefully, and this doesn't happen in every situation, you have your spouse educated in everything. You have grandma or whoever is in that child's life or in your life. If it's your friend, if it's your next door neighbor, if it's anyone who's going to be spending any amount of time, you share these resources with them. You get them to be on board. And if they're not on board, what is it? It's the movie I want to do. Anyway, cut it out.
Yep.
You cut that person out. If they're not helping you, they're hindering you. And it may suck. Cut that shit out.
Yeah.
if it's somebody who's going to make you don't have to go. And you know what? We get a lot of shit. Use it as an excuse. He's having a bad day.
Yeah.
Use it because it's going to be that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And people use it for far less. Use it when it matters. Use it when you should use it. And if that person is toxic, not to you, but as to your family unit or to your child, cut them out.
Yep.
Do it nicely.
And if you're the person who has a friend who has a child with autism
Yeah.
and they say, we can't go because he's having a bad day, volunteer to bring it to them because
Yeah.
moms need help too.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, I do consider it to be one community. I don't want to ever, nothing will only be offered to kids with autism here. I have one child with autism, one without. If I'm taking him to an art event, my son with autism hates art, but we're going to go try it. But guess who loves it? His brother.
Yep.
But I'm like, I don't care. I'll pay for it if he's not included because he doesn't have autism. So I got to the point now where I won't go anywhere that they both can't go
That's good.
because it was resentment, it was stress. I don't need any more stress.
Well,
I winged my eyeliner today. Like that was stressful enough. Okay.
so, you know, the first games and interactions that people teach babies and young children is what? Share, give him some, share, do a nice thing, it's his turn. And it's very aversive, right? So
Yeah.
naturally you should teach the opposite of, you know, make sure that you're having the other child give your child things and
Right.
give them and engage in things that they like so that they're more likely to do things that, so if Jackson doesn't want to go to Owen's thing and Owen spends the day pairing with him and then
Right.
eventually he takes that to, hey, we're going to art class and I'm going to let you use my whatever while we're there, he's more likely to want to go.
Right.
Then like, no, you have to sit and be quiet while he does his thing. It's no fun for you. You're expected to do the same thing. You could bring some activity that would be suitable for
There's
Jackson.
an opportunity everywhere. And it's crazy when you can break it down that way. And I didn't know that until I went to the autism conference, which you were there the first year I was there when Wendy went.
Yep.
That's when I first, started going to everything. And it was, all of them were way over my head at the time. And I filled out that survey they've never invited me back. But I did not know what they were, but I was fascinated, even though I didn't know what the hell was going on. They were really fast breaking down how a conversation happens and then what it takes to have a conversation. And they started talking about how lips move. And I don't know if it was a speech thing. I would have known it when I was there. But I knew that it was stuff I needed to know to an extent. I don't need to know all that, but I need to know that everything can be broken down. And it changed my life. It changed the way I looked at things.
That's right.
And it's just insane how much information is right here, how much information Samantha's getting. And, who knows where she's going to go in her career. But, we're talking about human beings, not cars, not dogs, not, this, it's a human, it's a person.
Yep.
So it's worth any amount of time you're going to put into it.
Right. And if it sounds mean that we're going to make Jackson go to Owen's whatever, yeah, we're trying to make it better for Jackson.
Right.
I mean, Owen already gets the reinforcement. He likes soccer. He's playing. He likes it. Now it's how do we reinforce him? So we're not just trying to force him to do something he hates and it's mean and it's awful. We're trying to find how to make him actually enjoy it, even if it just has to do with playing in the dirt.
Right. I want him to be the best spectator ever.
Yes.
And he's getting there. He'll say, "Go purple."
You gotta get him a cowbell.
Well, it's interesting to see how he does do things. But I was nervous sitting on the sideline so close because, my husband and I weren't soccer players. I know your family's very deep in soccer, but we didn't know. And I was like, wow, we sit like right on the line here. Okay.
He could join the game any minute.
Well, that's why I was like, maybe we should take like 5 feet back. And then I realized that fills up pretty quickly. And I'm like, oh, nope, let's grab our stuff and move forward again. But you have to come prepared. And if you're not prepared, you should be. Like,
there should always be a go bag.
there's always a Dollar General around here. Stop and get it. It's don't say we're gonna wing this. No. Drop your kid off, go to Dollar General and come back. Not the kid with autism.
Don't drop them.
No, don't drop
No.
them. But I mean, moving forward, this is the thing that's happening now. Families are not using resources that are offered and we're silo entities. What happens that you see, because you're with your clients until they're aged out of school, right?
21.
So 21. So what happens when you're transitioning out? So that's a titration of hours because you're no, they may not ever have anyone again. And also everything in their world is going to get, what is your advice for families?
My advice for families is to use those years between high school. So how many years did you utilize so far of his, kindergarten to 21? You have all those years, right?
Right.
You technically would graduate at 17 or 18, but you get extra years.
Right.
You can choose to bulk up in the beginning based on your child's needs and do kindergarten twice, do first grade twice. If that's where they're thriving and learning and that's where their trajectory is, that you want them to imitate and learn writing and learn things like that. If it seems to be just a disaster and you need to get to more of a life skills area where you're working on those programs, which don't always exist in those early years,
Right.
it might be better to skip right through and be like 1 year kindergarten, 1 year first grade. Now we're in third grade and they have a life skills room. So maybe we work in there. They have an ABA room or they have whatever. Find what's working best for your child and use that as much as you can because you have a couple extra years to play with. Or you can wait till the tail end, just bump right through the early years and then that tail end, figure out how to get on wait lists for the waiver programs. There's the intellectual disability waiver. What's happening over there?
That's Samantha.
You scared me. I have a
Try
terrible
to be Nina.
teddy bear going by. I thought I was hallucinating. It wasn't good.
Well, when you have to leave, you can just walk this. Well, and that's something that I think with the adults that are visiting our space now is that, could we have started these earlier? And thank you for always staying positive.
That's Andrew. He's one of our BTs.
And that's the thing, you can reintroduce these things at another time, even though
Right.
it didn't work when they were 5 or 6. Samantha,
See you
thank
next
you so
time.
much.
Of course.
Our teddy
Bye,
bear coming
guys.
through.
It was real. I thought it was that movie with the bear.
Ted.
Ted,
You guys, so one of the things that when I started seeing these adults, I was like, okay, we need to start working on those skills now because I'm seeing the trouble that they're having finding their place in the world as adults. Finding, I had zucchini bread and thought of you, Sadie. Sorry, you're not here, but I'll have it next time maybe. But really, that's kind of where we're gearing. We actually have a meeting with OVR scheduled
Yes.
soon. Is that
How old? How old is he?
10?
10, right.
But he's been working the lemonade stand. He's been doing inventory.
And as a parent, you kind of have an idea of what you want his adult life to be. Some
Right.
parents I talk to are like, well, maybe, he's not going to be able to do independent. I don't want him going to a work area, like a workshop or a day program. I want to build a career. I want to get like a paper route with my child and take them in the car and we're going to do this together and do like,
We might do a food truck or
correct.
whatever.
It could be anything. As a parent what your ideas are. And it's important to feel comfortable sharing it with your team so they know where to lead and how to guide you to get there. So use OVR, but they might only take you out for a job placement twice a week.
Right.
For an
Well,
hour.
and that's the thing. Everyone is understaffed
Yes.
across the world. It's not
true.
just here. And that's why people need to give everyone a little bit of grace. Schools are understaffed. Service providers are understaffed. Is it their fault? No. Could it all be run better? Sure.
But the key component
yeah.
is to not just wait and hope that your behavior technician and your BCBA can
You
stay
as a
with you
parent
forever.
have to be in charge because what happens when they leave school is that you're going to hope that there's places, but what happens if you do run that food truck or you do run that paper route or you do have your own t-shirt business with your child and then you have a heart attack and die?
Right.
My only goal for Jackson, and this sucks if I had to boil it down though, and I don't want his brother to have to feel like he has to take care of him. If he ever ends up having to be in a facility, we want their relationship to be so fantastic that he makes sure he's home for the holidays. He makes sure he visits him, talks to him all the time. That's an option, and that we can go any direction. My goal is for him to be an independent member of society,
Right.
which means he's going to have to work. He's going to have to pay bills. He's going to have to understand how to use transportation, whether it's the bus or a car or an Uber or whatever. But he's also going to have boundaries to know what's appropriate. And we did the sex education talk last night. He's got to understand not to call me a bitch when I tell him to turn off the bad video.
Right.
Like you're not going to keep a job with that, and it's just the way it is. And to look that far ahead, and I've been doing this for a few years, but the only reason why I was looking that far ahead is because I was surrounded by adults who had adult children and who are going through it. And I see it's like, okay, we got some work to do. If there's one thing that I tell parents, I don't care what you do, potty train your kids, because I get to see a lot of families who children are now in more vulnerable situations.
Yep.
If they can have independence with that, and I only learned that from your trainings, from my very first support meetings with SAFE, and we've done a few of them, and they're now on YouTube. So that's where moving forward, it's never over.
Right.
Right.
But there comes a time when your team is over,
That's the
like it or
thing.
not. And I don't have a waiver program. I don't do the intellectual disability waiver. So when our kids are in high school, we're trying to talk to parents and explain it's not about titrating hours and fading out.
This is
It's
happening whether you want it to or
yeah,
not.
it's
right?
about what is your dream, and let's use these years to do
Yeah.
home hours, community hours, and if we're in school, let's get them in a placement. Maybe they're doing great in gen ed, but guess what? We can use that life skills room to work on the t-shirt making business.
Right.
And for 2 hours a day, we're going to go over there and we're going to work on that. Not because we don't find social skills valuable. It's because there's something missing that he's going to do that your other kids aren't going to do.
Right.
We need, so just making things valuable, working with the schools, saying that this is what we're going to need in the future. This is what we want to look at. And we hope that you're able to provide that in the future.
And this is where I thrive, is connecting with people who can verbalize what I'm trying to say, but I don't know how to. So I surround myself with the professionals and people who I know that, if I need an issue, I have something later on in life, I could probably always message someone and say, just throw me a bone. What would you do in this situation? And I hope that other families have connections with that but I know it's not always realistic.
But those relationships are built not, I mean, you have me to contact, we don't have a professional relationship,
Right.
but we have a friendship.
Yeah.
But there are people, the way you become friendly with boundaries, but have comfort with your team is by doing home sessions, having parent goals, having them come to see your life, because maybe you think something is horrible and we come to your house and we say, no, that's how a lot of the families
That
do it.
happened with the EI, and Jackson needed pressure, but it was scary to me. I was like, I couldn't do it. Well, I was on bed rest. I couldn't do it anyway. But when Tim would do it, I would freak out. And they were like, chill out, mom. Like, he needs this. And honestly, I know this is horrible, but once a professional said it, I was like, okay.
Right.
It didn't matter if he was saying, oh, because he was like throwing up,
Right.
But he did need it. And I didn't know what interoception and all these input outputs or sensory needs were at the time, but that's what he was getting. Now I know it, and hindsight's always 20/20. But the biggest thing that I could say is keep talking. If you're an introvert, do whatever you have to do. Type it out, do whatever. If you're an extrovert, reel it in sometimes. That's what I have to tell myself. So speaking of reeling it in, I think we're at a natural spot, and we can do this again anytime.
Sure.
If there's ever topics that people want, if there's ever resources, if you're wanting to contact somebody, I can always put you in contact or share information. It's also just all on Google to contact any of the 4 facilities that the Gregory Center has. But I mean, my life has been immeasurably enriched by professionals like both you ladies, anyone I've come across with beyond behavior, everything. So I can only thank you thank you
Appreciate it.
for everything that you do. And you're rock stars. You are absolute rock stars, and you hold our a lot of gratitude and appreciation from the families, and whether they tell you a lot or not, because sometimes you don't see them. It means the world to all of us. So thanks, Samantha. Very informative. So if there's anything else, or we can just say,
Yep, we could get
Good night.
together again another time too, so.
all right, well, thank you guys so much. I'm just gonna have Jody hit the end live video because she's the closest.
What am I